I'm a 23-year-old guy who has been married to my wife for a little over 5 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter. Lately, I've had this gut feeling that my wife has been talking to someone and being unfaithful. Last night, when she was asleep, I checked her phone, and my suspicions were confirmed. Turns out, she's been having conversations with a coworker, and the text from the past 2 days. She had deleted the previous ones, included both of them saying, "I love you," and making plans for him to come to our house today while I'm at work. They didn't explicitly say they were going to get physical, but it was strongly implied. There's even some evidence that they may have already done some things. Right now, I'm sitting at a Waffle House after calling into work to let them know I won't be coming in. I'm planning on trying to gather proof of their meeting if he does show up by keeping an eye on when my home alarm is armed or disarmed through the app on my phone. Based on my research, if this ends in divorce and I can prove her infidelity, she won't be entitled to any alimony in my state. If I go home and confront her, before they engage in any closeness, it might have serious consequences if our marriage falls apart. I still love her and don't want our relationship to end, but I can't see myself forgiving her for this betrayal. Even if I were to confront her now, I know deep down I would still feel the same whether or not they were physically involved. This pain is overwhelming. She means everything to me. And right now, it feels like there's a gaping hole in my chest and a heavy weight in my stomach. I'm physically hungry, but the nausea is making it impossible to eat. I can't stop trembling. My thoughts are all jumbled, and it feels like a part of me has been torn away. I'm terrified of how this will impact my life and even more so, the life of my daughter. I'm completely lost and unsure of what to do next. I still haven't confronted them because the guy hasn't shown up yet. And honestly, I don't think he will, at least not today. Maybe she figured out that I know something. This morning when I left, I tried to act like everything was normal, but, man, it really hurt inside. I'm not sure if she bought my act. According to their texts, they plan for him to come over on Thursday morning, and it's already 12:40 p.m. now. If he doesn't show up, I think I'm going to talk to her about it tonight. The guy never came, so here's the plan now. I'm going to pretend like nothing is wrong for the time being. After talking to you all and my family, I think I can put on an act and act like everything is fine. Tomorrow morning, I'll go see a lawyer. And I also talked to a private investigator whom I'll probably hire from the text. I know she'd planned for him to come over during the hunting trip I have scheduled for next weekend, so I'm gonna make sure I go on that trip and let the pie know about it. I think I've made up my mind that I'm done with this. I don't want to try to fix things anymore. I'm going to protect myself and get out. It's not just a simple affair where she's having an emotional connection with someone else. She tells him she loves him, and it seems like she doesn't love me anymore. I feel like she's trying to take advantage of me. She wanted a new car and for me to pay for her education, but she also wanted to be with him. Currently, she left, probably to pick up my daughter from daycare. I'm keeping an eye on the time because I know how long it usually takes. If she takes longer than usual, I can guess where she went. Either way, I'm going to try to make it through Christmas and my daughter's birthday Friday without bringing up this issue. Hopefully, the private investigator can find some evidence by then. Wish me luck. So I got home and acted like everything was normal. Everything seemed fine. We even joked around a bit, but it hurts so bad when you're heartbroken. We had dinner and sat on the couch afterward. Then she asked me to pause the TV and brings up it. I asked her what it was, and she said she knew I saw the text. That's when the conversation started. She tells me that he didn't come over, which I obviously knew, and she told him she doesn't want to talk to him anymore. She even blocked his number. So, obviously, the original plan is no longer in play. I still love her, but my heart is shattered. I don't know if I can ever forgive her or trust her again. I'm not sure if I can continue being in a relationship with her. She wants to work things out between us, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to do that or not. She says she was talking to him because she didn't feel wanted. She didn't feel a deep emotional connection between us. And he seemed to know all the right things to say. She claims that she told him multiple times that she was done with him, yet here she is inviting him to our house. She says it wasn't a choice which she felt for him. The story she tells is something like he was bagging at my register one day, and I accidentally touched his hand, and it felt like an electric shock. I know you're probably reading this and thinking it's a load of BS. Well, I'm thinking the same thing. How can I trust her? I just can't see things from her perspective. Should I give her a chance? Should I try to work things out? I honestly don't know. Do I even want to? Is it worth it? I need to figure all of this out. I told her that I can't make a decision right now. I need some time to think about it. I'm considering asking some coworkers since I don't have family in town, one of the perks of being in the military, if I can crash on their couch for a few days. I need to get away from all of this and clear my head. Of course, I'll come back for Christmas for the sake of my daughter. I don't see any reason to hire the private investigator at the moment. Because I genuinely don't think she would do anything for a while. Maybe I could be wrong. Well, I've been wrong before obviously. In the meantime, I'm taking plenty of precautions to make sure I know what she's up to. And if anything seems suspicious, I'm out. Of course, I won't let her know about any of this. This will be my final update for today. Please continue to offer your perspective and advice, but ultimately, I think this is a decision I'll have to make after careful consideration, addressing unanswered questions, my emotions, and the plan. Let's do a little Q&A section for the most frequently asked questions. Question: how did she find out that I know? Answer: there were two ways. First, she had a strong suspicion because when she woke up, there was a notification on her phone for a new screenshot. However, when she clicked on it, there was no file. She became 100% certain that I knew once she stumbled upon this post. Yep. She has seen it, and she's probably reading it right now. Hi wife, will delve more into that later. Question: what did she say when I asked if she had an affair with him? Answer: she denied it. I'm inclined to believe her because in many of the texts, including the recent ones, he was talking about how excited he was to finally see how hot her V is. That's a direct quote from him, by the way. However, does this mean I believe she didn't do anything? No. Not at all. It doesn't change how I feel. Whether she did or not. She had planned for it and probably would have gone through with it if I hadn't found out. If we ever become close again, which will take a long time if it happens, both of us will definitely get tested for STDs. Question: how can I trust that she won't repeat her actions? Answer: honestly, I don't know. If we decide to work things out, I'll probably never be able to fully trust her again. She will have to prove that she'll be 100% honest with me. Here's the first test. To my wife: if you're reading this, text me right now. Send me a text at this moment and let me know. Stop reading and text me. I'll know if you've read it and choose not to tell me. If that happens, it's over. Let me share some information about the comments I've read. I'd say about 80–90% of you are advising me to get a lawyer and leave her out of that percentage. Only around 20% are actually providing reasons for their stance, while others simply say once a cheater, always a cheater, or something similar. The remaining 10–20% are suggesting that I give it a chance or do what makes me happy. Interestingly, most of those who encourage me to stay are making compelling arguments. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has commented. It means a lot to me that many strangers on the internet have taken the time to offer help or support. Also, please refrain from downvoting people just because you disagree with their opinion. Everyone's perspective matters even if it differs from yours. In my previous update, I feel like I portrayed her unfairly. She explained that she did what she did with him because she felt unwanted, but she acknowledges that it was her mistake. She knows she should have talked to me about it. She understands that she is the one at fault. She assures me that she doesn't blame me for what happened. I didn't push her away or make her do this. She claims she could control her feelings for him, which I still find hard to believe, but she could have controlled her actions. She let him persuade her because deep down, I think it's what she desired at the time, even if she may not realize it. Our marriage has had its flaws. We've encountered communication issues, especially recently. Our bed life hasn't been great either. I felt like she didn't care enough and she felt the same way about me. Neither of us put in enough effort to address these problems. Does that mean I blame myself entirely for what happened? Hell no. Not even a little bit. She made this choice, and she knows exactly how I feel about it. I don't want to convince you to like her, but I want you to understand that I never considered her a terrible person. She may be a terrible wife for what she did to me, but overall, she's not a bad person. Now let's talk about the plan moving forward. I spent a lot of time thinking last night and this morning about what I truly want and what would make me happy. I won't make the decision to stay or leave based on what she wants. I won't stay just to keep our family together. I have to make the decision based on my own desires. I want to stay with her. But that doesn't mean I've made up my mind yet. I want us to work on our issues, seek counseling, and have a stronger marriage than ever before. But I honestly have no idea if that's achievable. Once she found out about this post, I realized she became aware of the South Carolina law on adultery. How it affects alimony. That was my only defense. Now that she knows, I don't think she would engage in anything with anyone for a long time. This means that hiring a private investigator now or when I go hunting next weekend would be pointless. However, if she's reading this, and knows I'm not hiring one, she might think she can get away with something. To prevent that, I'm implementing some measures to ensure it doesn't happen. Or if it does, I'll have evidence to support it. I came up with an idea. I realized that if we try to fix things, I won't be able to trust her for a long time if ever again. I thought about what could make me believe that she genuinely wants to be with me and work on our relationship, not just for what I can provide for her. So I asked her if she would be willing to sign a post-nuptial agreement. I still need to consult a lawyer about the details, but the agreement would state that if we ever divorce even without assigning blame, she would receive nothing. No alimony, no shared possessions, except for specific items that are clearly hers, like her computer, clothes, jewelry, etc., and no court-ordered child support. Let me clarify this, as I've received some comments about it. I wouldn't neglect supporting my daughter or keep her away from her mother. I simply want to avoid the standard monthly child support and provide a certain amount based on the time she spends with our daughter. I'm not sure how it would work exactly, which is why I need legal advice to ensure it's feasible. I have additional plans, but I won't share them here. Because she might come across this post, and those plans involve her being unaware of them. I might reveal them in the future, but it won't be anytime soon. At this stage, if the post-nuptial agreement turns out as I hope and she agrees to sign it, I think I would be willing to give working on our relationship a try. I know many of you may not approve of this decision. It's possible that she could be lying to me. Maybe she's just a terrible person, but I remember who she was before all of this happened. I knew her when our marriage was still strong. I don't believe she did it because she wanted to be close with someone else. I don't think she did it because she stopped loving me. I think she did it because he was saying the same things to her that I used to say when we first got together, but I believe she misses the way things used to be. And while we can never fully go back to that, there are a few possible outcomes. Either we try to work on our issues. It doesn't work out, and we end up divorcing. We try to work on our issues. She continues to cheat. And we end up divorcing. Or we make an effort to address the problems we've had within ourselves and our marriage since the beginning. And as a result, our marriage and relationship becomes stronger than ever. I'm hoping for the last option. Quick addition to my previous update, she has serious self-esteem issues. She sees herself in a negative light. She's also very introverted and hasn't had the chance to get to know many people. This is the first job she's had in years where she's been around others. Of course, this doesn't excuse anything, but I thought it was important to mention. Update, so we had a conversation. We made an effort to resolve our issues. And for a while, it seemed like things were improving. Then she expressed uncertainty about her feelings and whether she wanted to give it a try. We continued talking and she eventually said she did want to give it a shot. We even had a counseling session with a therapist on Wednesday. During the counseling session, it went something like this. She mentioned feeling unsatisfied in the marriage and believed that I didn't care or communicate with her. The therapist asked her some questions, and her responses basically acknowledged that I did care and tried to communicate, or at least made an effort. The therapist explained to her that it wasn't about me not caring, as she herself admitted, but rather her own unhappiness and uncertainty about what she wanted. Well, she made her decision. Last night, she started setting up an air mattress in the spare room, and I noticed she had bought new sheets specifically for it. Curious about when she ordered them, I glanced at her phone and saw that she was texting him again. So clearly, it's over between us. We're going to get a divorce. I know many of you might say, "I told you so," but I was fully aware that this outcome was possible when I decided to work things out, and I don't regret it at all. In the future, I'll look back on this knowing that I did everything I could to fix our relationship. I have no regrets left, and that brings me some happiness. I gave it my all, and now I can never blame myself. Now, before anyone says it, please avoid calling her names or talking negatively about my wife. It's not helpful to hear how terrible she is when I still have feelings of love for her. Love isn't something you can just switch off. I haven't forgiven her, and I may never be able to, but I don't hold any resentment towards her. I still want what's best for her and our daughter, and I genuinely believe she regrets hurting me, even if she can't control her feelings. Our relationship is over, but she's currently making plans to move back to Florida with her family, which means leaving this other guy too. She doesn't think she can find happiness with me anymore, but I don't believe she's leaving me specifically to be with him. In my opinion, she's drawn to the excitement of a new relationship. That infatuation stage where everything feels fresh. I think she's dealing with her own emotional issues and low self-esteem. For the time being, she'll continue staying in our house and hopefully see a therapist. She'll still benefit from the marital status while she's here. According to South Carolina law, we have to live separately for a year before we can file for divorce. But she'll be leaving relatively soon. We've decided to go for mediation instead of involving lawyers to save money and avoid unnecessary conflicts. Fortunately, we still get along well enough. She has agreed not to seek alimony, and I believe she'll support me having full custody of our daughter as long as she gets ample visitation rights, pending court approval. I won't try to cheat her despite what some of you may suggest. I appreciate all the support and everything you've done for me, but ultimately, you don't know the full picture of our relationship. She's not a terrible person. I genuinely trust that she's being honest with me and doesn't intend to deceive me either. It's going to be a challenging journey for quite some time, but we'll get through this. Right now, my top priority is ensuring our daughter is well taken care of, and that we make decisions that are in her best interest. In her second story, this happened a really long time ago, about 7 months ago. My wife and I had a nice big house in a decent neighborhood. We were good friends with our neighbors a few doors down, until the wife-mother passed away from cancer. The husband-father fell into a deep depression and couldn't take care of the kids because they reminded him too much of his wife, so the kids stayed with their grandparents for a while. After about 3 or 4 months, the husband started to get better. He began coming over more often, and my wife and I developed a close bond with him. He would drop by every other day for a quick chat and a cup of coffee. I started noticing my wife getting a little too friendly with him, like hugging him for a bit too long when she answered the door and some subtle flirting. But I brushed it off and told myself I was just being paranoid. After all, he was practically family to us, and I trusted him completely. I was certain nothing would happen. Now here's where things take an interesting turn. I work for a big security company that's a 20-minute drive from our house. Because of that, I usually spend my lunch break at a restaurant with a couple of friends from work instead of having lunch at home. On our 5th anniversary, I decided to surprise my wife by coming home early from work with flowers, chocolates, a teddy bear, and this super sentimental letter I wrote. I asked my boss if I could leave 20 minutes early, so my wife and I could have lunch together. Thankfully, my boss is a cool guy, so he agreed when I explained it was our anniversary. I left work early and went to pick up the flowers and teddy bear. I had already bought the chocolates in the morning, so I decided to get the other stuff later and drove back home. I got a cheap basket to put everything in, so I piled everything in the basket with the letter on top and entered the house. Right away, I could sense that something was off. Normally, when I come through the door, my wife calls out to me. We have this big heavy door that makes a loud noise when opened or closed. You can hear it throughout the whole house. I saw her car in the driveway, so I knew she had to be home. As I looked down to take off my shoes, I noticed a pair of large boots. I had never really paid attention to our neighbor's shoes before, but seeing those boots triggered a faint memory. I tried to listen carefully to see if I could hear them talking. I didn't hear any voices, but that's when I noticed the bump 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 sound coming from upstairs. I recognized that sound of the bed frame hitting the wall anywhere. It suddenly clicked in my mind, and I just stood there putting the pieces together. I hadn't even moved since I walked in the door. I didn't cry, scream, or even blink. I don't know why, but in moments of overwhelming sadness or shock, I just shut down. I can't even begin to describe how awful it felt. In just 5 seconds, everything we had built over the 16 years I spent with this woman, our dreams of starting a family, all the sacrifices and changes I made for her, gone. Just gone. But I'm not the type to give up without a fight. If she was going to rip my heart out, then she was going to suffer too. I placed the basket on the table and grabbed a couple of garbage bags from the kitchen. I went through the entire house tossing all of her things, her decorations, her pictures, everything into the bags. We had a spare room where we kept a lot of our clothes, so I emptied all of her clothes into a separate bag. I grabbed a marker from the study, sat down on the couch and started writing and drawing on all the pictures. Words like 403, damn 403. Imagine what we could have had, and so on. I threw the pictures into the bag and quietly took them outside our bedroom. I wish I had put on earbuds or covered my ears or something. The woman I had been with since university, the one I shared close moments with, the one I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. She was talking trash about me. In between her moans and sharp breaths, she was telling our neighbor how much bigger his, what was, how he could last so much longer. How she wished they could do this every day. I quickly grabbed the marker from the couch and a piece of paper. I wrote, "Happy Anniversary 403 inches" on it, then took a small piece of tape from the kitchen and stuck the sign to one of the bags. While I was there, I also took her car keys from the top of the fridge. Technically, it used to be my car, so there was no way I was letting her have it. I walked back to the bedroom door, ready to burst in and shatter her world, but then I had a thought. What if I just pretended I didn't see or hear anything? What if I went back to work and acted like everything was normal? Maybe we could still make it work if I ignored it all, but screw that. She had already broken my heart, and I wasn't going to let her off the hook. I walked in casually. The foot of the bed was closest to the door, and there she was. Being close with that chubby jerk, pushing her against the wall, I strolled over to the corner chair and sat down. I took off my wedding ring and tossed it at the guy's head. I wish I had a picture of the look on my neighbor's face when he realized I was watching him with my wife. It was almost comical. He quickly jumped off the bed, scrambling to find his pants. My wife said, "What?" and turned around to see why her lover had stopped, and that's when her eyes met. I gave her the most smug grin I could manage as she screamed. She started blabbering about how she mistook him for me or some nonsense. Honestly, I couldn't even make out a coherent word as she cried and tried to come up with excuses at the same time. All I said was, "Happy anniversary, baby, you've got 5 minutes to get out of my house." She realized she couldn't win, so she quickly put on her shirt and shorts and walked out the door. When she saw the bags of her stuff, along with the sign I made, she started crying even harder. At that point, my overweight neighbor still couldn't find his pants and was standing there in nothing but his oversized wife beater. My wife walked back into the room and looked into my eyes saying, "But how am I supposed to get to my parents' house?" She must have realized I wouldn't let her take the car. I shrugged and replied, "Not my problem." She sobbed a little more and then asked, "Could you please give me some money for the bus fare?" I sighed and said, fine. How much do you need? She took a deep breath and said, about 350. It was at that moment I realized my wife was actually a 500-foot-tall Loch Ness monster from the Paleolithic era. You're not getting any 350. I shouted at her. I grabbed my harpoon and launched it, causing her to roar in pain. I called to my neighbor who was still without pants. Help me defeat this creature. He quickly grabbed his own tool and launched it into her slimy, disgusting head. As she fell to the ground with a loud thud, my neighbor and I high-fived and celebrated. That's when we decided to team up. And for the past 7 months, my pantsless partner and I have been traveling the world, searching for monsters to conquer.